Hey guys, well it is time for another Out of Breath Arm Sore Packer Minute, the show where I walk around the neighborhood talking about the Packers. And you watch to see if I get blasted by a Magnum. That was a semi right there. Guys, I want to give you a swing around. I am walking past the golf course today. And you know the series, folks. We're talking about the draft picks. We're on round 4, Vince Biegel. You guys know you want to hear this. You guys want to talk about Vince Biegel, you know it. But yeah, I'm walking by the golf course. It's an absolutely gorgeous day. Traffic is picking up over the lunch hour, but I'll swing you around one more time. Just check out this view that I'm looking at. The golf course is in front of me that way. We'll swing around to that in a minute. Behind me right now, you're looking at Buffalo Mountain. Clouds are stacking up. I might get rained on by the time all is said and done, or worse, thunderstorm. There's the golf course, and I found a ball today. Somebody missed a shot. Penalty stroke. All right, so let's talk about Vince Biegel. It's a convoluted sort of situation. It's a little bit complicated. Listen, it started complicated with Vince Biegel to some extent, right? The Packers give up their first round draft choice, late first rounder, 29, pick number 29, and pick up from the Browns the pole position on rounds 2 and 4 for their money. Now, with Reuben Foster and TJ Watt on the board, no less. So Packer Nation at the end of round 1 was in consternation. It was Packer consternation at that point. I was upset. You were upset. We all know how we felt at that time. However, what that did in putting the Packers in the pole position for day 2 gave them all night to entertain trade options. We heard rumors that Hundley was on the block. Maybe they were going to build something up and put together a package. However, I personally am thankful that we just took the guys where we had them. So the Packers come back in round 2 and we get Kevin King. So out of the giving up of TJ Watt, we get Kevin King, and then now today we are on round 4 and we were able to go ahead and pick up Vince Biegel in that round before we started a little bit of our run on running backs, which we'll talk about in future episodes. So Vince Biegel was complicated to begin with. This guy's a player. He's a smart guy. He's a Badger, which makes him kind of a fan favorite, just de facto. And then he comes into camp. We're all excited now. In fact, and some did not forgive Ted for missing out on TJ. Others think Vince Biegel is going to be just as good as TJ. So getting him in the 4th, I mean, come on, you know. Adding Kevin King. So we basically played 2 for 1. But it remained to be seen. We were all excited when OTAs rolled around. So then what happens? Vince Biegel gets hurt. Same injury he's had in the past, which scares us all, right? Has to have surgery, which scares us all. And we have not seen hide nor hair of Vince Biegel since. So this morning we had the question on Good Packer Nation Morning, which you can watch Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. Central Time, 10 a.m. Eastern, every Monday through Friday on Facebook, Green Bay Packer Nation Facebook page. But we had the question come up, and I actually ran out of time, couldn't really talk about Vince much, but as it turns out, I'm talking about him today, and the question is, what's the story on Vince Biegel? And the thing is, check this out. I just found another one. It's great walking along here. You see like golf balls while you're driving. You can see them bouncing along the University Parkway. I like to juggle them. It's a good question, and it's kind of a complicated question. What is up with Vince Biegel? We've seen nothing of him since the surgery. We won't see anything of him in training camp, most likely, at least part of it. The only story we're hearing right now is that Vince Biegel is expected to be ready for the 2017 season. Is that general or what? I mean, some carts coming across. And way too general, does not satisfy, frankly. Biegel, his injury was to that outside toe of his foot, of his right foot, I believe, which means he's going to cut on that an awful lot. It is an injury that tends to be a recurring injury, and we're just hearing nothing. So anything we talk about is basically a projection, but I mean, there are some things we know about, I think we can say about Vince Biegel that bode well for him as long as he can get and stay healthy, which is the biggest question overall. That's the biggest confusion about what we have in Vince Biegel. Can he get and stay healthy? And he had this injury, last year. I think he missed 2 games for the Badgers. But Vince is, number one, the Packers value football intelligence, and they really put a high premium on that because Dom Capers' defense requires a lot of responsibilities and requires players to be able to play at multiple positions for the purpose of being able to survive and make it to the NFC Championship when in week 1 you lose your number 1 press man perimeter cornerback in Sam Shields and have multiple issues and injuries after that. So number one, Vince Biegel's a smart guy, and I think that bodes well for him. Here comes the fan. You guys are used to it. I think you can hear me okay. I'll try to talk a little bit louder. Number one, we know Vince Biegel's a smart guy coming out of Wisconsin. You've heard him. If you heard him on Wilde and Tausch, he had a fantastic interview. Really just a smart dude. And in today's NFL, intelligence is incredibly important. Specifically to the Green Bay Packers, as I mentioned, it's kind of even more important because of the complex nature and the Packers' focus on players playing multiple positions. On offense, our wide receivers play every wide receiver position, left perimeter, left slot, right perimeter, right slot. They have to learn it all. And we've seen Randall Cobb, Devontae Adams, and Ty Montgomery all in the backfield as well. On defense, we've got more. We just lost Micah Hyde, the Swiss Army knife of the defense. He played the corner. He played the outside. He could play safety. He could do it all. Morgan Burnett, he's up there playing linebacker. So versatility is important, and versatility is predicated upon intelligence. Vince Biegel's got that in spades. I don't think anybody's worried about that. How good can Vince Biegel be? I think Vince Biegel could be a dang good player. Now, he was good for many years. He was solid. He was consistent. He was a leader at the college level. Look at his physicals. Remember, we were comparing T.J. Watt to Clay Matthews. Vince Biegel squares up with Clay Matthews very well also. Now, that's not projecting him to be the next Clay Matthews, but what we're saying is, he's going to be on the same team as Clay Matthews. He's going to be learning from Clay Matthews. And I think he's got every option and every opportunity and the ability to be a great player. And if he reaches his potential, then I think we've got something special. The other thing I want to add to that is, and it sounds a bit hokey perhaps, but the guy's a Badger. He's a Wisconsin native. He's going to come in doing everything he can to be great for the Green Bay Packers. This is his team, and now he gets to play for them. It's such a rare opportunity. And one of the things you get from Vince Biegel is that he gets that. He understands. Packer Nation Worldwide has fans from everywhere across the globe. But when you grow up in Wisconsin, and you go to UW-Madison, that's where you play your college ball, and you get picked by the Packers, there's an extra measure of motivation that goes along with that, and there's no doubt about that in my mind. So Vince Biegel is motivated. I think he is actually, videos like this, news coming out, question marks, questions being asked. I think Vince Biegel is going to be a guy who has a little bit of a chip on his shoulder, to be quite honest. Now think about it, guys. Vince Biegel, he gets picked in the 4th round. T.J. Watt goes the tail end of the 1st. Many in Packer Nation were so hot after T.J. Watt that they got angry that we didn't pick him. And to some extent, Vince Biegel is a guy looking at it and saying, hey, listen, I'm a good player too. What the heck's wrong with me? And the only way to do that is to prove it on the field. And I think Vince Biegel, and this is something I haven't heard anybody else talk about, I do think Vince Biegel has a chip on his shoulder. He's glad to be a Packer. He's in his home state. He's with his favorite team. But he knows he's got to make this team, and he's got to make a difference. And he's got this competition that's brewing with him and T.J. Watt. And it's going to come to a head when the Packers play the Steelers on Sunday night. And that is probably the most interesting thing. Frankly, for me, and I know the Packers coaching staff wouldn't look at it this way, but for my money, I'm sorry, I was checking to make sure I hadn't shut the video off. For my money, if Vince Biegel can play a couple games before and get really worked into the defense by the time we play the Steelers, I want to see those two guys out on the field. I want to be able to head-to-head compare TJ Watt on 3rd and short, Vince Biegel on 3rd and short. TJ Watt gets forced into coverage. Vince Biegel gets forced into coverage. Now, how much is he going to play? We don't know. And the Packers don't typically try to put their rookies on the field that much. We saw Kyler Fackrell get out there quite a bit in a few games. But, you know, the ideal situation if you're a coach is that this guy doesn't have to go out and get put in and have multiple reps all the time. I think if we see too many reps out of Vince Biegel, most of us might be thinking, well, geez, who has gotten hurt? And knock on wood, I don't even want to put that out into the cosmos, frankly. On the other hand, if Vince truly does come on strong, listen, this is a kid, I think, you know, we're all excited about what Kevin King can do as he develops, and I've said I think Kevin King's development is actually critical for the Packers' long-term success. And short-term success in terms of the season. The sooner he gets started, the sooner he adapts and adopts the system, I think the better off our defense is going to be. Vince Biegel, to some extent, the same way. I mean, if he comes in and can truly show, who knows? You know, this is a Packers team that took an outside linebacker like Clay Matthews and put him in the middle. Now, I'm not saying Vince Biegel is Clay Matthews, but I am saying if any coaching staff can find ways to get their good players on the team in different sets and be flexible enough to do that and be multiple enough to do that, it's the Packers defense. They're able to do that. And they've got a few veterans still left, even with the exit of Jones, Peppers, and Hyde. So they've still got Morgan Burnett that can move around. We don't know what their plan is for Vince Biegel, but for the most part, we're just waiting to see him on the field. Here's my hope to close. My hope is Vince Biegel gets on the field. I'm kind of not expecting him in training camp. I know we can all agree we want him to stay off the field until he's 100%. The last thing we want is for him to come out, push it like Corey Linsley did, push it, and end up with another injury. Or a re-injury of the same one, which is even worse after it just being surgically repaired. But I would like to see this guy at least get in a preseason game or two, because you know they're going to give him quite a few reps, you know, depending on how much practice time he's been able to get in. But they'd like to get him quite a few reps. They like to give those young rookies reps because they understand how important it is, and some of these young rookies end up having to jump on the field and man up and play. We know that. So my hope is we can see Vince Biegel before the season begins. I'm not sure if that's going to be the case. I'm not sure even if he's ready physically, if he's going to be ready mentally enough for the coaches to feel confident putting him on the field. But by and by, I think Vince Biegel is going to pan out for us. I just think there's a lot going his way. He's an athletic guy. He's good against the run. He's got a nose for the quarterback, and he's been a playmaker. So if he can, again, the biggest question is if he can stay healthy. So, all right, so there's some thoughts on Vince Biegel. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Where do you think he's going to land? Is he going to be a bust? Is he going to be a boom? I mean, this is a 4th round draft pick. If he becomes anything like a TJ Watt or a major contributor on this team, as a 4th rounder, he will have broken what has been kind of a string of mid-round linebacker picks that really have not panned out for us. And frankly, Ted Thompson's linebacker picks, other than Clay Matthews, have generally not played out for us. And Clay Matthews, we had to trade back up into the 1st round to get him. So Vince Biegel as a 4th rounder, if he comes in and can be a really good, a nice addition to a Packers defense, much less if he could become a stud, which is what we all want him to be, will be a great 4th round pick. And if, as I believe, Kevin King becomes a Pro Bowler like I think he can be, and Vince Biegel, if he becomes a really good player for the Packers, that trade-off for TJ Watt will really fall by the wayside, and nobody will be thinking about it. So it remains to be seen. We'll see here. Training camp in less than 2 weeks, folks, and I will continue to talk about these draft picks as we go through the week. on our Out of Breath Arm Sore Packer Minute, guys. You have a great day. Hey, take a walk. It's good for you. And we'll talk to you again soon. Go Pack.